All right. Welcome to the CrossFit Canada podcast, telling the story. Well, we're supposed to be telling the stories of Canadian affiliate owners and coaches. And we have someone who is neither Canadian nor an affiliate owner.
I have Canada in my blood. Grandma Lucy. I got some Quebecois.
That's so I had to run this by the admit because you're the second of our special guests. So no person more special than Brian Chontosh, aka Tosh. So before we get into anything, how we do this is like if you came and dropped into my affiliate, I'd have you introduce yourself. Let's introduce the ranch and where you live. Question of the day, and I was thinking this specifically for you. I know this will fire you up. Go to junk food.
Go to junk food. Anything with sugar and chocolate. It's hard to beat. It's hard to beat some soft serve vanilla chocolate twist, man.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, do you do the chocolate dip as well?
No, it's too much. It's just like, hey, if you like ice cream, you like ice cream. If you like chocolate, then buy a Hershey's bar, right?
It's true. That'll set the tone for this whole interview, I'm sure. But again, introduce yourself and where do you live and that stuff too.
Yeah, my name's Tosh. My formal name is Brian Chontosh, and I live in Boulder, Colorado. And I operate Crooked Butterfly Ranch.
And that's what we'll get into today. And then I love hearing people's and so as we'll unpack, former seminar staff, heavily involved in CrossFit. So how did you first get introduced to CrossFit? I love hearing people's origin stories, and I'm sure yours will be just as interesting as the rest of them.
Yeah. I was in the Marine Corps, and middle of my career, I was an instructor at the infantry officers course. And as instructors, especially infantry guys, you were the biggest, the baddest, the fastest, the strongest, the toughest. You were it, right? And I was probably what I thought at the time, the peak of my physical conditioning, running, swimming, jack and steel, obstacle courses, endurance courses, like all of that stuff. And we had two gentlemen, Todd Widman, another seminar staff guy. Everybody knows Todd, and Marcus Mintz is peer captains of mine. And they came into the office one morning. We're there at 4:30 in the morning or so, getting ready for the students. And hey, guys, come here. Let's check this out. And they pull up CrossFit.com website, the old yellow website. This is 2005. The bulldog in the top corner, the whole 9 yards. And it's like, look at this thing that I came across. You got to check it out. They post these workouts, and it's like, all right, cool. Hey, you guys want to get together? And we had a little cadre of like 5 of us. The staff was 12 people and then a director. But a couple of days of that, they talked us into doing a workout together. At the end of the day, getting ready to go home. Come on, guys, let's just go outside. It's just a quick 20-minute thing. We'll go down to the pull-up bar. We're going to do this workout called Cindy. And all right, what's this thing? Well, and they go through the whole thing, right? Just brand new CrossFit nerds. Awesome. You do 5 pull-ups, you do 10 push-ups, and you do 15 air squats, and you just keep doing that as many times around as you can in 20 minutes. No problem. So we get on there and we crush it. And it's like, okay, that was a cool workout. Yeah. But we look at our scores, and I remember my score. It was 28 rounds plus whatever change, and at the time, Bingo. You remember Bingo on the blog that they had? Like they used to post their little blog, and everybody put their comments and post their workout scores and everything like that. And Bingo was a big guy doing all of that. I don't know where he's at these days, but it's like, yeah, hey, we just crushed that. This thing's not that. Like, we're in shape. And the next day after that, you start to feel a little bit like sore that you never felt before. Like, wow, what is that? Yeah. And we would just add it to our routine until I went to a seminar that they were hosting in Quantico at Weapons Training Battalion. And, the basic school said, hey, Tosh, you're going to go and represent the Marine Corps at this thing. And I was like, okay, hey, cool. And then I learned what CrossFit standards were for pull-ups and push-ups and air squats, and do that whole seminar. And so I'm like, okay, hey, get done with the seminar. I'm going to go back and I'm going to revisit this Cindy. And to get 21 rounds or something like that, significantly different than the way us knuckleheads were doing it. And then I was hooked. But that was back 2005 in Quantico. I was introduced. Oh, and the other story is Todd and Marcus had been doing CrossFit for like 3 months, 4 months before they decided to tell us, because they wanted to get a leg up.
Get a head start.
Yeah.
And did you still whoop them?
Well, yeah, we were pretty competitive as a small little group inside of our staff, with the working out. And I'll tell you, ever since adding CrossFit and then making CrossFit a priority of all the other stuff that you're doing, volume, the other stuff started to go away because you didn't need it. And I was fascinated with the methodology, fascinated listening to Greg, fascinated with watching the videos of Annie and Nicole and Eva, right? Greg Amundsen, and quickly realized like, oh, and then your fitness, your concept of what fitness is broadens, and your capacity just starts to go through the roof. And so we were, we never decided to wear different color shoes and socks and fluorescent clothes. You know what I mean? But
Didn't do the high socks and the chucks and all that.
Yeah, we were CrossFit nerds. Like, we could not get it. The staff would pretend that they didn't, look at the CrossFit.com website when they woke up at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning before they went to work. And we'd all act surprised, and we'd get around Marcus's computer and he'd pull it up to see what the workout of the day was, to watch the demo videos, because nobody knew what a whatever was. And it was the days of learning and fumbling around and enjoying it and the excitement. And we were all in, but we would pretend that we didn't know what the workout of the day was. We were waiting until it posted at midnight, and we were like refreshing, and then we'd go to bed.
That's cool. And so parallel that on a timeline, like if it was like an elevator pitch, just to give the tens of people listening a background on just kind of like your military career timeline, because I feel like those two things start to weave together and get you to where you are now. So synopsis of just kind of your timelines of your military career.
I enlisted in the Marine Corps not right after high school, about 6 months after high school, February 9th, 1993. That day is tattooed in your heart, right? Yeah. I was in the enlisted side of the house until 2000, when I commissioned and became an officer, and then did my tours as an officer overseas and whatever. I found myself at the Quantico, where the basic school is, infantry officers course, in 2004, late 2004, December 1st, 2004. I know that date too. And picked up CrossFit March, April-ish of 2005. Retired in 2013. And so, and then, you had mentioned I worked with the seminar staff for 5 years or so, did special projects for Greg and Dave Castro here and there, and then started Crooked Butterfly Ranch around 2017, 18, and stopped working full-time for CrossFit.
And that's what we'll work our way into, but I do want to backtrack, because what's that timeline? Did you compete at the 2009 games?
Yeah. So I'm a storyteller.
Yeah. Well,
I was in great shape. I mean, I was known for being in great shape, right? Around 2003, 2004, coming out of Fallujah, you're in a little bit less shape. Now all you do is have time, because you're stateside, instructor role, working out, jacking out. And I had never maxed out a Marine Corps PFT, but I mean, I was benching for reps, 335. I mean, I was squatting big, running, 6-minute miles, 6.5-minute miles. And then I went on a deployment after infantry officers course. I went back to the fleet to 2-5 and went on a deployment. We were operational unit. We didn't go back to theater or anything, but stuck on a ship for 6 months. And this is in 2000, mid 2008.
Okay.
And all we did on ship was CrossFit up on the weather deck with beat up weights, a rower, pull up bar, some rings. And you just made up CrossFit workouts and tried to do the best you could with what you could do on ship. And I came back to the States having not run more than 50 feet, maxed out a PFT for the Marine Corps, and qualified for the 2009. Back then it was regionals, and it was the SoCal regionals up in Newport Beach. And I came in second place at the regionals to qualify for the games. And I attribute that to CrossFit. Like, not qualifying for the games, obviously the CrossFit's going to do that,
Sure.
but my fitness went through the roof in a very small, confined space, just having access to CrossFit in a weight room.
Mm-hmm. What's interesting though is that, like, CrossFit came to you at a certain point in your life, maybe serendipitous or just whatnot. But as we'll get into, is I was just up at your place after the recording, during the recording of this, not too long ago, for the Wicked and Wild Wonderland. But we had one of your former Marine students there, Dave Partillo, right? And he was sharing, you weren't around, how he said that for you always said to your troops, like, just stay disciplined in your fitness. And I'm sure I'm paraphrasing or getting that wrong, but so I guess long-winded way of saying, like, you had a fitness and discipline have been tied in together. And then was CrossFit just another way to express that? Or
it was another way to express it, but it actually became it for me. Right. I think we were doing things, we do fartlek runs and courses. The obstacle course is a CrossFit workout. I mean, those things are 100 years old. We were doing those in our career. So it was an easy transition for me. The multi-domain modal, stimuluses, things like that. Plus it keeps you excited about training instead of just going for your 5-mile run and, go do bench press and deadlifts in the gym and some arm curls. Like, it was actually exciting.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, sitting in the seminar staff space, even before I was on seminar staff, right? Like, so, my wife is Nicole Carroll. I met her through CrossFit, obviously. And then I get invited to like go to gigs and go to gigs and go to gigs. So I get to hear the level 1 lecture over and over and over again. I must have done 15 level 1s in a course of 2.5 years while I was in the military, when I would have a weekend off and it was local to California. And never once was I bored listening to Greg, Nicole, Dave, Chuck, right? Just talk about the methodology.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just so beautiful, simple. It resonates with so many other things in life in general, outside of, fitness. I use it all the time for leadership. And I was sold. Right. And it wasn't like I was trying to be sold anything. It was just like, I am all in because it makes so much sense. I'm seeing the benefits of it, and I don't need to overcomplicate it. I mean, the most overcomplicated I ever got with CrossFit was trying to dial in the zone diet. And the whole thing was designed so you didn't have to overcomplicate it. But that was the only thing that I dorked out about. Because, I remember the conversation I had with Greg after my seminar in 2005, and he called me over. I mean, I did really well at the seminar, right? And he taught me how to do a muscle up. And he's like, hey, I really like, do you know who Greg Amundsen? I was like, yeah, of course I do. Like, the dude's gorgeous, right? Like, he was the original fire breather, and he's just wicked cool. Yeah, I never met him. And he's like, hey, like, you want to look like Greg? I'm like, yeah, who doesn't? I mean, I think I already do, but like, I'd want to perform like Greg. And he's like, hey, we need to dial in your nutrition. And I'm like, my nutrition? Like, that, I don't care about that, right? You're 28 years old, you're on fire. Nutrition, you could eat anything and be fine.
Right.
I think about Rich back in the days eating Chick-fil-A all the time. Nutrition. I remember talking to John Wellborn at the regionals, like, give me a gallon of milk, like the cheapest gallon of milk. It's got all the good stuff in it. Like, just drink that, eat ice cream. We went to In-N-Out Burger in between workouts at the 2009 regionals. But so that's how I met Nicole, because he wanted to introduce me to Nicole to dial in my nutrition. And she was educating me in nutrition, and I was, she was fascinated with some leadership stuff, and I would just share. And it was a really cool exchange back and forth, and then I decided to overcomplicate Barry Sears's zone diet by reading the labels and adding up the grams and trying to do the division and multiplying and body weight times 1.2 and protein, like all the stuff. And but yeah, that was, I don't know where I was going with that, but it's, my whole life became CrossFit because it spoke so true. It didn't mean that I had to get a tattoo that said CrossFit on my chest and wear all the shirts and tell everybody like I'm a CrossFitter. Like, it wasn't that at all. It was much more beautiful inside for me. That's all I wanted to do, was just use that methodology, not only for my fitness ambitions, but also my life ambitions, push out your margins, and like every routine is a blueprint for its own destruction. Like all the original Greg quotes just spoke to me in my life.
Well, and that's, I guess what I'm trying to do here is, and you mentioned the word leadership, is I'm trying to kind of set this foundation to start stacking these things on top of. And, one of the things I've picked up with you is like a difference between being passionate about something and putting it on a billboard on the highway to just get as many people see you doing it as possible, or you can still have an equal, or if not more, amount of passion, but you can kind of grab people, arm over the shoulder, like, hey, let's come do this thing called CrossFit. Let's come to, right? Is like you have a passion, you're very passionate about a lot of things, but CrossFit being one of them, but you don't have to be a billboard for it and have it still be effective.
Yeah, I mean, to each their own, right?
Right.
No comparison, no judgment. I'm not better or worse or how I do it. It just what makes it right for you, if it's genuine and authentic, and you express yourself in a way that's genuine and authentic, right? And it's not to say that somebody that doesn't wear all the stuff and does all the things isn't being disingenuous to themselves either. That's who they are. And I celebrate that with everybody. You meet people with where they're at, and if they're going in good places for themselves, their health, their well-being, their relationships, their profession, like who's to judge or cast a stone? It's just how I wanted to show up because it felt right to me.
And then I think when I was first exposed to you was on social media. You were doing some, I don't know if leader, you were doing some training with Rich and the group at the barn. Dan Bailey was there. I think this was circa 2014, or maybe it was just after, maybe the first year Rich went team, but they were doing some night work, and you made they all got back after maybe I don't know, 5-10 mile run. And I just remember you said, all right, you guys are going to go back and do it again because Dan Bailey can't follow directions. So what was going on there? What was going on there?
Yeah, what an amazing experience. That was now known the Buttery Bros, right? Heber and Marston used to work for CrossFit, and they were putting together a Road to the Games thing. And Rich brought in a whole bunch of people through his ecosystem back then. Tia Claire, Catherine David's daughter, Sarah Sigmund's daughter, a handful of people, right? Rich. And they were doing like a weekend with Rich and doing some training, and they were sharing, and Chris Hinshaw was there. And Chris was the one that actually invited me. And because I had been doing some programming, I been just doing some of Rich's programming with him. I don't think Rich knew. Because Hinshaw was working on a lot of his material with aerobic capacity. And they asked me to come in and do some kind of leadership, team building, something mindset building, because I had known Chris for a while. I mean, I knew Rich, and Chris wanted me to get involved with Sarah a little bit to help her with some head game stuff. And so I went there to meet Sarah and do some things with them. Dan Bailey was there, and we did it. We were going to put together like a little 20-hour session to build some resiliency. And then and it wasn't about the 20 hours. It's like, hey, you got it. These guys are really fit. You got to tax them in a way that they're not used to being taxing. It's well outside of their domain. Chris is there to like look at some things from his perspective, being an aerobic capacity coach and everything that Chris is. And then I was there to look at how people were thinking and acting and showing up so that we could find clues to deliver those to the athletes and where they could improve. Everybody's looking for an edge, right? And so I came in as a subject matter expert to do that. And that night at the barn, so they had been working out. We were probably like 8-10 hours into it at that point, and it got really dark and it was getting cold. And, seniors got the pond, and that pond should have had ice on it. It was that cold. And, you make them do a little circuit course and some team building course, and you try to confuse them with rep counting and some things, movements and shifting, and having them try to overthink stuff instead of just perform. And, then they would take turns jumping in the pond and swimming across the pond, and then they'd be like all wrecked. I think Sarah actually saved Dan's life in that pond because he jumped in and he started to freak out. And being a crazy Icelander, right? Like, she's an Eskimo, man. She jumps in and drags him across the pond. But yeah, that was a great event.
And so, and that's kind of what bridges me into the mindset side of things, mindset, leadership. It sounds like a silly question, but I first want to start like, what does leadership mean to you? And then I want to unpack that more. But give me your 30,000 foot overview.
Let's flip the script on you since you're hosting it. It's your podcast. Let me screw you up a little bit. Well, like, what's mindset first? Like, everybody's like in this game of, resiliency and mindset, and mindset. It's like, hey, what is it? What is mindset? And then you hear all kinds of stuff. My definition of what mindset is, it's learning how to lead yourself through adversity. So you can rewrite what leadership is then, in terms of the context that we're talking about as individuals in the fitness space, but even in life too. Leadership, everybody's focused on leadership. And what is that? Yeah, it's the sum total of all the qualities an individual possesses in order to bring a group together to accomplish common tasks. Like, spit out a million definitions, right? That's a Marine Corps one. And they're so focused on being able to influence others towards common cause. Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, hey, that's great, but that's kind of like step 3 or 4. Like, if you can't lead yourself, if you can't learn how to understand yourself and how you show up in different circumstances, and then be able to manage and harness different resources to show up in a right way to be more successful for yourself, then what business do you have trying to do that for others in a team setting? And so that's leadership, right? I think you can devalue what leadership is by trying to peg it into something really specific, right? So that would be leadership in that specific application. So how people define leadership typically is how they're prejudiced towards what their profession or their interest or their passion or their current application is endeavored towards. And, I tell people, I think parenting is the most original form of leadership. If you have anybody that has kids knows, wow, you're a leader, right? And when you think like, wow, I never thought that being a parent, that I'm a leader, like, people tell me all the time, well, I'm not a leader. I want to learn how to be a leader, but they have 4 kids. And it's like, you're the ultimate leader. You are doing the thing that happened before the thing even was a thing,
Well, and that's what I think. So, and you said it's skewed towards profession or niche, like, and like, I think about affiliate owners, especially like because it is a community driven culture within an affiliate, right? So leadership can be thrown around in many different ways. And I probably almost the same as the original like fitness discussion that Greg had. It's like, let's just all put our hat out and everyone put a word in, and then we'll come up with a definition of leadership, as opposed to giving affiliate owners something more tangible. And I like that about like, well, start by leading yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, I mean, in anything you want to do, if it's good enough for yourself, then it should be appropriate and applicable to others, right? Leadership is about relationships amongst a lot of things, but you know, I'm a relationship based kind of guy, so I always define my terms based off of my beliefs and my propensity towards, you know, building relationships, and my focus on people. And it doesn't mean that that's the answer. That's just the space that I'm in. And so, you know, for affiliate owners, what is leadership for them? Well, it's going to be some sort of derivation, right, of the whole concept, and it goes into a specific application of being an affiliate leader. And even being an affiliate owner or leader, there's different leadership veins in that, right? And so it's like, well, do you want to be an affiliate owner? Okay, great. And I need to be a good leader. Well, it's what are the things that you're trying to lead? Because not all things have the same mechanics or the processes to go that direction. They all have the same theme in common, but not necessarily the same actual process.
And so you saying being a you know, you yourself very much a relationship based leader. One of the things that I picked up from you though is giving, but give with a gloved hand. And I want to kind of talk about that a little more in the sense of like an affiliate owners are often quite relationship based as well, whether they do it as leadership or not. But realizing there's still a moment where you kind of do have to protect yourself in a positive way. And you can't also just give yourself all away. So what's the concept of give with a gloved hand?
Give with a gloved hand. I say put your gloves on, not your hands out is how I phrase it.
Sorry,
I
yeah.
don't know if we're saying the same thing.
Yeah, that's what I mean, I think I saw it originally on like a social media post you
Yeah.
did years ago, but so I'm sure it has evolved to like gloves on, not hands out.
Yeah, it means be willing to do the work. You know, it's a credibility thing. Be willing to do the work. It's not, another one of Greg's, famous liners is yeah, I just had it on the tip of my tongue and now it's kind of gone. The needs of an athlete and the needs of your grandmother
Differ by degree, not by kind.
differ by degree and not kind, right? And so when I say put your gloves on, not your hands out, you've got to be willing to do the work. Like, don't get focused on the degree, focus on the kind. And then I think about Grandma Lucy, who told me, whatever you want most out of life, give it first. And when you blend those two things together, it's like, oh, wow, like, what do you want out of life? Well, I want to be respected, respect others. Well, I want to be loved. Well, learn to love others. Well, I want friends. Well, be a good friend. Well, I want money. Well, then give, right? Give opportunity to others so that they can learn and grow to be able to earn money, right? And it's funny, like whatever you want most out of life. Hey, if you want anger, if you want conflict, be angry and find ways to argue and fight. You're going to get what you give. And so when I say put your gloves on, not your hands out, I'm talking about, hey, be willing to do the work, right? Like put the time in, put the effort in, put the energy in, show people that you care. You know what I mean? Show people that you care. And how do you show them? There's a lot of ways to fake it, but people will generally know inside after a while. Like you can't fake being there. Now, whether that's physically or if that means emotionally or spiritually or intellectually, right? So that's kind of a quick, without going down into too many rabbit holes. And that's like the big thing is whatever you want most out of life, give it first and put your gloves on, not your hands out. A lot of people, they want to be in this leadership position. They want to have the title, the recognition, or they're thrust into a billet and they think that, oh, hey, now I'm the leader. Right. And those are labels. And your opportunity then is to either prove or disprove your label. So are you trying to be a leader, or are you just trying to help others or give to others or win the task at hand? Focus on the latter, what I said, second, first. And then you all of a sudden, like, now you're a leader, right? Instead of trying, well, I need to be a leader. I need to be a leader. I need to be a leader. What are the answers to the leader? What are my 7 steps? What are my 15 habits? Whatever the things are that are out. It's like
my morning routine.
All the rage now. The things. I'm doing all the things, but why am I not a leader? And it's not do one or the other. It's like, you don't do one at the expense of not doing the other. You do them. You do your 7 habits, or do your 15 principles, or do your 21 steps, whatever it is. But also, it's not just that. There's intention and authenticity that has to happen while you're doing the steps. That's what arrives you as like, oh, wow. Like, leader is, you being a leader is actually, that title and spirit is given to you by your audience. You don't just get to write on the name tag leader. Right. Hey, I'm a leader because of these things, my position or whatever, or, what I'm responsible for. Okay, great. But that's not the deeper, more intimate, spiritual sense of what the word is. That piece can only come from your audience that recognizes you as subject matter expert, go-to guy or gal, whatever the case is.
Yeah, I mean, back to like egregism, that ad hoc fallacy of this before that, therefore this causes that. It's like, oh, I sign up to be an affiliate owner and lead a community, therefore I'm a leader. But that's the fallacy that maybe folks can find themselves in. And I think admitting it's a fallacy isn't a bad thing, because that would only imply like you don't have the answers, but the answers are just right in front of you more often than not.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd have to think on a little bit more whether this specific example means it's the fallacy. It just means that it's the half part.
Okay.
Right. There's another half of that part, and there's a whole other part. Right. It's only the half truth of it, or it's only the half of the equation. Like, in what came first, chicken or the egg? I don't know. Well, if the egg came first, then that means these things need to happen also. If the chicken came first, well, then that means these things need to happen also. Right. And so where's your starting point? Pick a starting point, and then recognize that, hey, I have to do those things, but that I also have to do these other things because I didn't pick that as the starting point. So, hey, jumping in because you want to own a small business, hey, that's great. And now you're the leader of that small business. Okay, good. But then you still have to do the things that your audience would then select you as a leader, right? Or you could just be this personality that people, and you're doing all of the things, and people are recognizing you as leader, but you're not necessarily like the de facto through title, the leader. So you choose to find a way to create an opportunity to position yourself in that title of leader, so that it can create an ecosystem or an audience, so that you can then exemplify the things that you are in a different capacity for a greater audience. And then that's how the two work together from both sides.
For sure. And, for those listening, they're thinking, okay, well, how can I start venturing down this path? It's like, I'm picking these things up, I'm liking them. How can I venturing down this path a little more and start to unpack this? Well, you have a vehicle for people to go through that called Diesel Days. Yeah. So I want to start steering the conversation about Diesel Days, but let's get the origin story of Diesel Days through Diesel Mike, and then how it started to get into the first Diesel Day 1.
Well, we got to go back a little farther to our buddy that we both know that you mentioned earlier, Dave Portillo.
Yep.
He was a Lance corporal that worked with me in the Marine Corps during a time when I was a commander of a company, and I wanted to build teamwork. I wanted to excite some interest in physical fitness. We needed to improve our fitness as a unit. We needed to learn some skills, practice tactics and techniques and procedures, right? We needed to empower small unit leadership and accountability and all the things. And you had to do that. And so we started a little thing called Man Camp. Back in that day, Camp Mateo was all men. Wasn't a mixed gendered infantry battalion or even a camp of a regiment. It was all men. And so we just called it Man Camp. Hey, it's Man Camp. And everybody knew, like, oh, that means Tosh is taking a group of Marines to do something with. And it didn't start as the entire company. It would start as, hey, just the E1 to E3s, or just the NCOs, or all the staff, or just the officers, or just first platoon. It was different units. And I would spend the day, and it would be once a week at that point, because then I could rotate through different units, and it wasn't like I'm monopolizing small unit leaders' time. And we would do stuff. And combination of issuing orders and accountability and manifests and inspections and fitness and obstacle course and long hikes. And it was a handful of hours. And every time a diesel day or a Man Camp came around, it got bigger, it got longer, it built upon the successes that were precursors. And over a year or so, it became pretty big deal. And we were able to develop a unit, like a really cohesive unit, because we were getting ready to go to combat. Then when I toured back to Quantico for an instructor role, I carried that diesel day, that Man Camp mentality with the instructor staff at infantry officer course, and we would do these things. It's like, oh, hey, we need to have a session. And then I rotated back out into the fleet and picked up company command again. And the call sign for our company was Diesel. And so that's where Diesel Day became coined, and Portillo was part of that unit. And he knew the original coined Diesel Days. And it was just that. It was just continuing to develop and evolve Man Camp into a different thing. And it would go once a month, and you have the whole company. So that basically got just shelved after I retired. And I was contacted by Maggie Tincher, CrossFit Reston, CrossFit Fairfax owners from back in the day, and said, hey, we got a client that I think he's really interested in what you do. He saw the Road to the Games video with Rich and Dan and the gang. And he's like a fire breather. He just wants this, wants that. Like, would you ever work with him? I think he needs something, because I knew Maggie pretty close, and Jeff, her husband, through seminar staff. And they get to appreciate me because of our relationship and proximity and working together, that I'm more than just some meathead workout guy. And they liked the stuff that was going on here. And Diesel Mike was a coach for them. And it was part of like a, hey, development thing. So I had a couple calls with Mike to figure out if I was going to do some one-on-ones with him. And I finally agreed. And it wasn't because he wanted to win the games or he wanted to be a better athlete. It was because, and Diesel will tell you, it was because he wanted to be a better father. He wanted to be a better husband. He wanted to be a better human being. And that's when I decided, like, I'll work with you, right? The fitness aspect is the vehicle of interest that brings people together. But like, I'm into the business of doing something more. Mm-hmm. And so I designed an event for him. This was 2017. And I flew out to DC and spent 3 days, and we did this big event. And he's like, hey, he had a blast, and we learned, and we became friends. And then he asked to do it again the next year, and asked to do it again the next year. And then he had a shirt printed out, because he asked these same questions. What's, this and that. And you start to learn, and we're doing Diesel Days. And so he's the one that actually, because he made a shirt, he bought a Rogue shirt and then printed Diesel Days across the back. I still have it. He's made 3 of them for me. And every year that we did it. And then he says, hey, what, I think there's a lot of people that would benefit from this. This is amazing. Like, do you ever thought about adding this to your business? And I was like, I don't know, I don't think people are that interested in it. Like, I like the one-on-one, and thought about it more. And so I talked to James Hobart, and because he lives just down the road and we're really close, and started thinking about it a little bit. And so we programmed the 24-hour event to open up and bring people up here to our property in Boulder. And, it was a huge hit. So I said, well, let's do another one. Let's do another one. Let's do another one. And so now 25 courses later, we're still doing them and they're going strong. And, but it's a fitness event, right? But really it's not. That's just the masquerade party, bringing people together that are interested in some fitness. And then you start layering in some leadership stuff and relationship stuff and some, growth stuff, and you create an experience that the magnet is just the fitness piece. And it started to brand away from us a little bit to where people was, oh man, this is just a 24-hour beatdown. I was like, no, it's not. I mean, it's the hardest thing you're ever going to do in your life, probably at this point. It's because it meets you with where you're at. So you get to go harder. So that's what makes it harder, which gets you to this place. Right. And that's part of the loop. But when they walk away after the event, they're like, holy cow, like that was the hardest thing I've done in my life, but it was appropriate and it was scaled and it wasn't too much. And it opened up these doors in so many other places. I mean, you know more about Diesel Days than I do. You've been to so many, you've facilitated half of them. So in fact, you do stuff with your audience up there. And you found that, a lot of cognitive based therapy.
Well, and that's exactly it. And because you said it like, and it was very subtle, but me knowing, because having done it and whatnot, there's a lot more to it. We start layering. He said we start layering in the leadership stuff. That's very specific because, again, what does the time and the task do to the brain to give you as a coach the opportunity to start layering this stuff in?
Oh, well, it's hey, we're all managing shit. Every human being is managing something, and every human being is putting up a veneer, right? So people can receive them the way that we want to curate ourselves. And sometimes we're doing that, actually all the time. We're doing that to ourselves as well, not only just others. And when you get time and task with something that's physical and you get to a point, everybody's point is different. Some people it's hour 1, some people it's hour 6. I mean, Vince, it took him hour 23, but got him to where you don't have the resources to manage what's going on in our physical space with tasks and the things that we do. And so you've got to grab it resources that you're using to keep up your walls or keep your doors locked, right? Or to show up in a curated sense. And then when you start to take away the resources that you're using to manage all of that, who you are starts to come out, right? And then I dig in there because it's a leadership experience for you as a human being, right?
Yeah.
And, I use a lot of it, I'm fascinated with psychology too. So it's a lot of this is all rooted in a lot of different theories with psychology. And I'm an amateur student of it, but enough to know where it aligns with what I believe in and the things I've experienced. And I'm not saying it's the answer, it's my answer that achieves results that we get. And that's where the leadership comes in. And it comes in weird ways. And how many times have I been at a Diesel Day through the course of the 24 hours and somebody's doing something and they get frustrated? It's like, hey, that's just not who I am. It's not who I am. This isn't who I am. I'm embarrassed or this or that. I'm like, hey, this is exactly who you are. Yeah. How you're showing up right now is, and you just have it suppressed. And when you give room for you to be exactly who you are without judgment towards it, and you get to learn what it is and give it a voice, and it doesn't stay bottled in, now you can process it, manage it, resource it towards something more positive instead of letting it resource you in a different direction. And that's the leadership stuff. and you get just a great workout.
Well, and exactly right. And so, because what's also part of it, and we can't give away the goose because this is the whole point, is why it's hard is not the physical side of things. Again, the physical side of things is the vehicle, but why it's hard is because you give everyone the answers to the test before it begins. And that's the left hand material, right? Is so just again, without giving this away, you give the person the tools to confront the thing they're confronting. So what's hard is not the thing they're doing. It's, I have to really face this thing of, do I want to actually go head to head with this thing that I'm confronting? So what's overview of the left hand material and how is it a tool that's used?
Yeah. Real quick, I'm going to dig into that real fast, but, and I'm not afraid to give away anything. Like, man, you're Matt, and you've been around, and I just want to help people. So
there are dozens of Canadians listening to this. You know,
I know, man, all 54 of them. Diesel Days is creating an opportunity for you to have an interview with yourself, right? You go through the Diesel Day experience and you get to meet yourself. And even so, depending on your reluctance to, and how much you're going to meet a part of yourself that you probably didn't have a conversation with in a long, long time. Some people, they come up here and they meet their whole selves, but it's just the first step. Right. And that's part of it. This whole thing is a opportunity for a transformational process to begin. I don't like it when people say, hey, that was so transformational. Transformational things aren't moments or instances. Transformation is a process.
Yeah.
And if you think it's an instance, it's because you haven't had the privy of awareness of what was going on beforehand or what will happen afterwards. So you're just defining it as a moment because that's all you have right now. But when you increase awareness, then you'll understand that it's actually a process. The left-hand material is a framework that I put together through reflection. And I've done podcasts and interviews and guest speak and writing and all kinds of stuff. And you never really get asked the same handful of questions, just in different ways, because people have different interests or backgrounds or, applications. And at some point, I just started taking note of the things I was asked. And it's like, okay, hey, I was asked these words, but it's really the same in this set of these other 5 things. And you start to kind of build a catalog and you can index it like, okay, hey, I'm asked this and I'm asked this and I'm asked this, I'm asked this, I'm asked this. And then I started thinking about my answers and realizing that, I'm saying the same thing over and over again all the time in different ways to meet the question for the questioner, right? And their audiences. But, and then that put me into reflection. And I was also going through a reflective phase of myself as I'm going through transformation due to my experiences in life. And so I started really trying to dig back and reflect into these moments, whether it was through the military or combat or ultra endurance events, relationships and things. And why do I keep coming? And I see the consistency and the consistency and the consistency. And it's like, wow, this is really cool. And I was talking to Clint Bruce one day, phenomenal dude. And he's a master of vocabulary and words and speech. Mm-hmm. And he's a meathead. Like you look at him and you think this is a dumber than a box of rocks kind of guy. And when he talks, you're like, whoa, he's one of those guys. Right. And amazing human being. He's like, we're doing one of these things, not for his audience, just him and I never met him before until this moment. And somebody said, hey, you got to talk to Tosh. And he reached out and I was like, hey man, what's up? And he recaps probably like, I ramble a lot and I talk a lot. Right. And he's like, what I'm hearing you say, Tosh, is that you're taking lessons from the battlefield and the ball field, and you're making them applicable and appropriate for the boardroom and the breakfast table. Clint, I'm stealing that. He's like, you don't have to steal it. I'm giving it to you, but that's what I'm hearing you say. I just wanted to put it in those words. And I'm thinking like, okay, cool. So then I went deeper into reflection and I was like, hey, what allowed me to get through moments of struggle, moments of doubt, moments of guilt, moments of shame, moments of fear, moments of cold, moments of fatigue, moments of, near heat stroke, like all of the things, moments of adversity, moments of struggle, moments of challenge. What did I leverage mentally, emotionally to get through those moments? Right.
Mhm.
And I'm just like, wow. And so then I created this little framework for myself, like, well, and then they kind of all sort of fit on the hand where the thumb represents it's this conversation about being okay. And the pointy finger, your index finger, represents you being focused on external validation or assumption or invention, right? Judgment, excuses. And then the middle
Comparison.
finger, you being just absolutely stubborn, Tosh, and just saying, fuck you, I'll prove you wrong, or I'm not going to lose. Like it's this healthy sense of being stubborn. Your ring finger, wedded to your goals, but more importantly, understanding why your goals are your goals, and then what you need to leverage in terms of an internal driver or an external driver, how you're motivated in those two arenas to accomplish your goals. And originally it was check in with your right hand. And then it's like, well, we're in America. We wear our wedding rings on the left hand. Wedding rings are, significant and symbolic of goals and commitment. And so then I switched it to the left hand. And then the pinky finger just focused on little things, you know. We tend to look for the big glory, the big gratification when it's the combination, the culmination, the total addition of many small things or different phrases that I've heard different people tell me in life, like, hey, don't not do now what you regret not doing later. That's my version of what they told me. But it's like, oh wow, like, hey, focus on a little bit. When you're in a moment of terror or panic or struggle or doubt, uncertainty, adversity, pick it. Oh my God, I gotta have a big solution. I gotta get out of this. And it's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Actually, you're already in a compromised place. You're
Mhm.
not going to be able to do something really, really big. Like, hey, focus on one little thing that you can do to improve your situation, and then another little thing, and another little thing. Or what little thing are you not doing that you could be doing, right? And so that's how the framework started on the left hand. And as I started to write it down, I started to look for places to validate it currently by signing up for another race or signing up for another event or creating something for myself to really get me, again, my own personal diesel day, right?
Mhm.
Whatever it is, rowing and running and climbing and pick it. But I had to get myself into a compromised place physically so that the mind starts to work against you with doubting and questioning and all of that. And then if you have the wherewithal, because that's what I was doing it for, to use your material to see if it was actually true or not, or you're just creating some kind of bullshit.
Right.
And as I continued to create opportunities for myself to validate the material, then I wanted to share it with others, have them try to help me validate it through their experiences, because I'm just me. And it came to be like, wow, this is powerful. And while I'm using it for myself, given my experiences and my specific applications, other people that live different lives, they have different battlefields, ball fields, boardrooms, breakfast tables than I do, but they're using the framework. And so we're finding that in all of these other instances that it's working. So there's something there.
Yeah. And then that's where Diesel Days again comes in, understanding that you it's not a conference, right? Like you can't sit up there on a stage and tell the left hand material and say here's why it works. It's the same as like CrossFit, like it works because it works. But like then you spend the next 24 hours in the Diesel Day setting finding that moment where you can start to apply it, right? And then that's because it is such a simple logical tool, simple not easy, that it exposes something. And then that's where you come in as a coach. And like what's cool about coaching is the ability to notice something in someone else and crack them out of a thought pattern and instill a little belief in them. And being present, one thing that your superpower is just staying present the whole time and not validating who that person is in the moment, because that's not who they are potentially.
It's exactly who they are in that moment, but it's not the entirety of who they are. It's a piece of who they are. And when you can identify it, look at it, scratch it, inspect it, investigate it, do the whole thing with it, then you can learn that it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's only a bad thing when it's allowed to be expressed in a bad direction. When you can reorient your relationship with it so that you then can better manage it so it doesn't go in a bad direction, or you can harness it to use it towards, it's the same thing with stubborn. Hey, Tosh, you're so stubborn. Well, if I allowed that to happen, like stubborn doesn't have a positive connotation to that, right? It's a negative thing to be stubborn, but really that's one of my bigger strengths is how stubborn I am, that gets you through challenge and hardship and adversity. It's not a good thing that I have when I'm trying to, have communication with somebody else and being in disagree, or somebody has a different idea. That's not when I want to access my stubbornness for the greater good. It's in these situations. And so if me being stubborn is something that, like, that's not who I am, that's not who I am, you cheat it out of the opportunity to show up when it needs to be who you are. And so that's how I think. I'm just fascinated with it. I just want to help people. And I'm not saying my thing is the answer, right? It's not the panacea to the world's, problems. It's a part of the solution set that everybody gets to pick how much or how little they want to leverage it for themselves. I tell you, when you come to a diesel day and I give you all the intellectual property, I'm like, hey, it's yours. Don't regurgitate it verbatim. You need to internalize it, metabolize it, and then have it expressed in a way that makes sense to you, given who you are as a human being and your whatever endeavor you're facing in your life. Like, adopt it, adapt it, right? And use it. But like conceptually, the framework, and that's it, right? And it doesn't mean that framework can't, like, that's the thing with models, right? Models are used to express concepts, and they generally hold true for many concepts, but it's not all inclusive of every. That's why they're models. And so I call it a framework. You can call it a model. It's really more of a framework than a model, but it's very, very similar. Use other frameworks and other models you have as tools, and to use the whole overplay and just add that tool to your toolbox, and then whip the hand out when it's needed and you feel that it's good. I feel that I use my left hand so much, I don't even know I'm using it. And I don't use it. So, I've been working on this for the last 3 years, 3 years of not just using my left hand when I'm facing adversity. I'm actually trying to access my left hand more when I'm having success, right? When I'm on a high, when things are rolling and there is momentum, that's a great time to use your left hand as well. And I picked that up going through therapy. I started going to therapy because I was struggling, and that's a whole different podcast. But that's what we do. Oh, we're struggling. We need help. Let's get some help. Let's go to the doctors because we're not healthy. Let's get a therapist because something's off and we're struggling. Whatever it is. We do it when we're in compromised positions. But then it was like, I feel so good after I do a session, and I feel so good after the next one. And it's like, well, why don't I go to my therapist? Like, because that's the goal.
Yeah.
Good therapists, ones that don't want your money, right? That, therapists that just want your money, they don't want you to be fixed, because then you're not going to be a client. Good therapists realize that if I can help you, you're going to become addicted, right? In a positive way to something that's good for you. We'll keep doing it when you're in a healthy place, because then we can build the habits and we can reinforce the protocols and concepts so that the feedback mechanism is pulling you forward instead of trying to push you all the time. And so that's what I've been doing with the left hand for the last 2-3 years, is really focusing on, hey, I'm on a high. Like, life is groovy right now. Just check in with the left hand and see what's going on. Oh yeah, and I'm flipping it around right now.
Well, you're taking the left hand material and you're regularly learning and playing new sports with what it's told you, right? And you think about someone who uses CrossFit to lose weight. I started CrossFit in 2012. I was going to get in shape for wakeboarding season. Still a terrible wakeboarder. But I was going to stop. I started in February and I was going to stop come May once the ice was off the lake. That was 12 years ago. I haven't wakeboarded in 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
But because realizing like, hey, this is positive for me, I'm going to keep doing it. And that's, however anyone's introduced to CrossFit, they keep doing it because it's positive. But then how do we apply or get to this tip of the pier of sport to what are things outside of the gym that we stop doing once it starts working? Or we only identify these things in terms of struggle,
Well, you got to go back to something that you stated, that the tip of the spear is sport. Well, that's the assumption that that's the tip of the spear and that's the only tip, or the tip of the pyramid. It is the tip of the pyramid for Greg's model. And it's a great tip of the pyramid but it's supported by everything else in his model for this application. Why is the tip of the pyramid have to be sport? Can it also not be deep human connection? Can it also not be to be a better father? Can it also be to lose weight? Can it also be to set the conditions for me to, live a longer life or to wakeboard? Like, so let's not just pin one model that's appropriate for this concept and this thing and that be definitive, right? The only model that I think is close to being definitive across the board is Maslow's hierarchy of human needs. Right? Like, I mean, that defines the human condition in a great way. Is it all inclusive of everything? No. Are there other models that help support that? And are there other models that actually, potentially create contradiction or identify gaps in the model? Sure. And that's why I have other models, and we create a supporting system of models. You come into the CrossFit gym, you want to be better, you want to lose weight because you want to weight loss. But then also in this journey, if you're present and you're intentional, wow, I'm feeling good about myself. This is actually, hey, my health markers are going up. Hey, my deep social connections, I'm making new friends. Hey, I'm getting new business opportunities. Had you have not started CrossFit to go wakeboarding, you wouldn't own CrossFit Aurelia right now. Right. So it wasn't just sport, it was other things. So can you build the scaffolding inside of your pyramid that you can write different terms in there and use it for you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's true. Like, we get so maybe potentially pigeonholed in the material, and just like you were saying with the left hand, it's like, take it, understand it's scaffolding, but apply your own siding and insulation and boards to it and make it what you want or to benefit yourself.
It's all pointy finger shit right there, Matt.
Yeah, that's right. So where can folks find out about Diesel Days and the calendar of events? Because, we talk about Stubborn, maybe we'll finish this has evolved, I'll promote for you, to a whole calendar of events that you've almost filled the year out. You've kept that block during hunting season open for you.
Yeah, I have to.
But you were talking about stubbornness, right? So we just had the Wicked and Wild Wonderland, 20-hour of trail loops. I might have told you, but it was also the end of 20 hours for both of us. I spent the entire second last lap working the conversation we were going to have about why I wasn't going to go out for the next lap and why you were going to tell me to go out for it. And I spent an hour on the trail being stubborn to be like, okay, I'm going to find this reason to end my 24 hours, 20 hours. I'm going to end my 20 hours at 19 minutes and 15 seconds, 19 hours and 15 minutes. I rounded the corner.
I remember this exactly.
Rounded the corner and you said, just grab another cart and go. No, man, and start trying to spew the reasons, again, in this like grocery list of reasons why I can't do it. Right. And it's like, that's cool, man. But you can also just do this. And it's like, the 20 hours wasn't hard because of the 200,000 steps I did. It's like, it was hard for those reasons because we're having this conversation where you're being appropriately stubborn to not take no for an answer. I'm facing my stubbornness. And then for those who don't know, there's Tosh has a shop on the hill. I've got to make my little walk of shame down the hill into the garage to start my last lap that I know he's right on.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the fuck you finger came out a bunch.
It's funny because for everybody, now we only had 7 participants, and the participants that were at Wicked and Wild, I have a relationship with, which makes it even more exciting. So we can dig a little more. I get to know them. I can be there for them, to meet them with who they are, but who they want to be, but also with where they're at in between those two at the moment. And I spent specific dedicated time thinking about all of you.
Mm-hmm.
How am I expecting them to show up when they come back here to the table? Then it's a confirm or deny, right? So I'll think of like, they're going to show up this way, they're going to show up that way. Since I have the luxury of the relationships and the experiences with you all at different degrees, like I didn't have to think of like 5 different potentials. It's like 1 or 2. And then I go through a confirm or deny, really quick. Confirm or deny. Is he showing up the way that I'm expecting him to? Check or hold. Yep. Okay, cool. I've already got how I'm going to respond to you because I know. And it wasn't the same for everybody. Some people, it was very, very more explicit and directive. Some people, it was just a look. Some people, it was a comment out of the side of my mouth. Like everybody, some people, it just, you had to give them some space and some time, and then you knew they were gonna, right? So, but I remember that. I remember thinking about you coming back. I was like, he's going to show up this way or that way. He's going to show up this way if he's struggling, and he's going to show up this way if he's really dug in to his experiences through Diesel Day 1, Diesel Day 2, coaching at Diesel Day 1 and 2, and you showed up this way.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew this way was really, really close, and it just needed the right cue and the weight, because I can already see Matt working. And I can see it's like, oh, he just needs just a tiny little nudge so he doesn't get stuck in second gear. And it's so selfish of me. It's so selfish of me because it's so rewarding to watch somebody go through that and come out. And that's where I like the intellectual stuff, classroom, read a book, listen to a podcast, go to a seminar. But like when you have it paired up with practical application, you had said something earlier about 10 minutes, 15 minutes ago. I give you all the answers. I tell you what you're going to do as a group. Mm-hmm. And then my job is, because I know it's going to happen, I can remember the future. And I know it's going to happen. I just wait for the signals to start to come. And then I know it right there. Then I just play with each individual as an individual, play with the group as a group to figure out what language, what style, what technique works to get them through whatever it is. And everybody's a little different. And then you meet everybody with where they're at. And that's the whole being present and intentional, right? I'm not trying to give you my material for the sake of saying, look at me, my material's great. I'm actually trying to offer you the material so that I can meet you with where you're at to see how that material supports you. Because you come to one of our events, it's about you. And some people don't. They think some people come and they'll say, oh, it's about me, but not really. You can read through the lines. You can read through the words they're saying with the ones they're not. Like, it's about street cred. It's about notching their belt. It's about another medal or whatever it is. And it's like, okay, cool. And you let that. But I also know that when we hit these certain conditions, you're going to have that epiphany about yourself. Oh, now I know what the ring finger is about. And I was just feeding myself these things, and I'm allowing the power of 2 truths to come into place. Like, those things still exist. They wouldn't have shown up that way if they weren't true. But can you also have room for these other things that I'm supposing exist in there also? And when you give room for that, right, you give space for those to happen, you just start to see it in people's eyes and their faces and their body language, and you can feel their energy. And it's so selfish because it makes me feel good to give that to people.
Well, and as you said, you don't really enjoy the word transformational, but we'll finish with one quick example of someone who was literally transformed is, if you remember when Kendra got out of the truck the first time at Diesel Days, and and for those watching or listening, this is someone who got out of Tosh's truck, and I just remember it very distinctly. She wouldn't square off to people to talk. She wouldn't talk and have a conversation shoulder to shoulder like someone. She would turn off this way.
Mm-hmm.
And you were giving the left hand talk. It was a summer, so by the fire, and you got all those pines. Every time the pines would pop with an ember, she would physically jump, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so someone just visibly with body language, I look as like a dog from the shelter. Fast forward, that was Friday night. So, but let's just say fast forward to the end of the event. Here's someone literally trash talking me as we're playing toss and bags.
Yeah.
Just squaring up, staring me dead in the face and telling me how, I'm the worst person at bags ever. And like, that's profoundly transformational.
She remembered what it felt like to feel good about herself for the first time in a long time. I have the privilege now of a relationship with Kendra over years, to know more of her story, right? She didn't want to be there. She wasn't coming to do this because she wanted to do it. She was doing it because Natty asked her to, because they came as a pair. And Natty really wanted to, and she wanted to help her friend. And that's what we did. We helped them both.
That's cool. That's what Diesel Day is. So where's the best place? Go to the website, crookedbutterflyranch.com.
Just go to Matt Spencer at CrossFitAurelia.com. He knows everything about it. You can get crookedbutterfly.com. And we have our website. We're getting ready to do an overhaul. It should be next week. We should have the rough build of a new website. And you can see all of our events there. I know it's a little clunky because of stuff. Nobody needs to hear my stuff. We're working through it, doing the best we can. Ultimately, it's about like helping people. And I know if we have better stuff, interface and everything, we'll maybe get more people, but it's not about me trying to get more people. It's about me getting the right people.
There's a calendar. It'll tell you when the event is and how to sign up. And I mean, that's all people need. And I mean, I think it's worth selfishly, if this is the motivator to get someone there, but they get the experiences, there's still CEUs to be earned for them as well, right?
28 credits with CrossFit towards their certification. If you do Diesel Day 1, if you come back and do Diesel Day 2, you get another 8. Another 8. And so, I mean, that's some motivation for a lot of people to come. That's why they're coming. I'm just coming for the CEUs, but then they leave and like, I don't give a shit about the CEUs. I had like, wow, like it's just another, but it is because I do layer in. I do believe credit where credit's due, and a lot of the methodology, a lot of the movements, the standards that were like, it's all CrossFit. I have to give credit because it's been life-changing for me. You can get me on Tosh.crookedbutterfly on the Instagrams. You can get Crooked Butterfly on the Instagrams. We push out calendars and schedules. We got a tree choppy event coming up this weekend, actually. Chop down a tree in 24 hours with just an axe. You did that one. Your logs are still out there.
Still working on
it. Wicked and Wild. We got Diesel Day 1s. We're taking Diesel Day on the road for the first time to Portugal. We're headed to Lisbon in August. So we got 2 courses back to back. So get out of Ontario and enjoy paradise, right? This place that we're going to, a seminar staff lady opened up her home, and we're going to run Diesel Days at her place. I do the Hardway Project, a subscription service. You're a big part of the Hardway Project, and we put out information and workouts, and it's okay. The workout are really cool and different, unique. We learn different stuff in the physical fitness world, but a lot of it is actually, that's another vehicle to
what's going on up here.
Get on and let's figure out what's going on up here, and all of a sudden it unlocks a lot of other places in your life, not only just your Fran time.
That's right. And on that note, 3, 2, 1, time.